Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host for this episode, Rachel Fiori. Thank you for tuning in and listening. We are going to dive in to our topic for today. And our topic for today is Jesus got paid to heal, and so did shamans. Okay, we're going to talk about this. So let's dive in and use the way of truth. Okay. Anybody who lives in an extraordinary level of ignorance that says Jesus healed for free, listen, you know me, I'm going to punch you in the face with this right now. So take a breath for some of you, but you're a motherfucking fucktard. If anybody says this and believes this, you have been brainwashed. Jesus got fucking paid to heal. So did shamans, by the way. Shamans don't heal for free. So I first, just so we can be clear throughout this episode, I am going to use Messiah and I'm going to use shaman as archetypes. These are the highest level. Obviously, a Messiah is a higher level of teacher and healer compared to a shaman. And no, don't let your ego ever create superiority, inferiority, any of that bullshit. One's better than the other. None of that crap exists in oneness consciousness. Okay. It just is. They're different. They're slightly different, similar, but they're also different. And when you understand that, you understand I'm going to use archetype. So if I say Messiah, if I say shaman, I'm using those terms as an archetype for the highest level of spiritual teachers and healers that have existed and do exist on this planet. That in human history, the highest level of teachers that have existed. Okay. And that would be in the form of a Messiah. And then close to that would be shamans. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean those are the only two. Not at all. I'm using them as archetypes just for the sake of this teaching. So don't get caught up in the labels, people. Get out of your ego if you are. But what about, shut up. I'm using those terms as archetypes for the highest level of spiritual teachers and healers that have ever existed and that currently do exist on the planet. Okay. So just an archetype. So they represent those terms represent all of the highest level of healers. All right. And teachers. Now that we have that cleared up, we can move forward. These people, the Messiah, shamans, they didn't fucking heal for free. So I know I've addressed this a little bit, a lot over the years, but I've addressed it in previous podcasts and things. And I'm going to address this piece again because I want you to understand something. And I really want you to wake up to the fucking bullshit. All the lies and all the brainwashing that have been offered to you. In order to keep spiritual people and authentic spiritual teachers and the highest level of healers, in order to keep them trapped in a third dimensional matrix where they cannot get ahead at all financially, you've been fucking lied to. But let's really understand this so you can understand the lie on a deeper level. So when I say to you, Jesus got paid to heal, I mean it very literally. Let's talk about the time that he and shamans, not that shamans don't exist today, but I'm talking about more ancient times because times were different. The monetary system wasn't exactly the same as it is today. It's not identical to what you and I experience today, what our monetary system has become, what our financial system has become. Okay. So I want to make that clear. So that's why I'm going to talk about shamans back in the day, ancient times, the highest level of healers back in the day, ancient times. Okay. So they absolutely got paid to heal, but there was a different time that they were living in. So how did they get paid? So I want you to understand this. I'm going to take you step by step. Number one, If you understood what it meant to actually become a shaman, nobody wants to be a fucking shaman. You don't even in the slightest have any fucking comprehension because of the world we live in today. Just because of the world, I'm going to keep it simple. Just because of the world we live in today, we have lost the teachings. They've been gone forever. We have grown up in a world where that stuff, for the most part, doesn't even exist. We've lived in separation consciousness for so many centuries, and we've mastered that, which is why we're moving out of it. It's time to master something else, oneness consciousness. We've mastered that to a degree where it's so foreign, not taught to us, and so separate. Even in certain cultures that grow up with access to certain saints and certain, spiritual teachers to varying degrees, it's still taught from a level of separation consciousness. Now, to understand that, I would have to do a whole nother podcast episode on just that alone. So for now, just for the sake of this episode, just take my word for it. Okay. You can understand what it means on a deeper level later if you want to. All right. But for now, I'm just going to ask you, just for the minutes that that I talk about this and teach this, just take my word for it. Okay. Even if it's just temporary, you can go back to thinking whatever you want to think after this episode. But when we talk about a Messiah, when we talk about shamans back in the day, what you have to go through to become that means if you had the slightest comprehension of what it really took and what it meant, how to live your life to be that for everyone that you're here to serve, nobody wants to do that. No, but I want to do it. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not me. You don't know me. Listen, what I just said was if you had the slightest comprehension of what it really means, and we don't because we haven't grown up with these teachings. So guess what? This isn't a judgment. This isn't a way to put you down. You don't have the slightest fucking clue. It is not a glorious life. It isn't. So this is where we have to start. It isn't a glorious life. Guess what? If you're a legit, authentic, highest level spiritual teacher, if you're a shaman, if you are a Messiah, you're meant to become a Messiah in this lifetime. You're not hanging out at motherfucking festivals, guys. Oh, but they're spiritual. No, you're not, because you can't. Okay. I could, again, whole nother podcast on that alone. This is just, I'm going to ask you, and I never say just take my word on shit. Drop into your heart, feel into it. I mean, do that for real. Feel into the truth yourself. But for the sake of what I really want to get to and teach in this episode, just for half an hour, take my word for it. Okay. And then you can judge and do whatever the fuck you want to do in your ego afterwards. So it is not a glorious life. It is the most challenging. You're not living like a fucking king or queen. It is the most challenging existence that the average person could never begin to comprehend. Again, not a put down, not a judgment, but it's the truth. And so you come into a lifetime, by the way, where you have a gold print that you are that Messiah, you are that shaman, you are to become it. You are not born. Jesus was not born Jesus the Christ. No, he fucking wasn't. What he was born with was the ability, everything he needed to become Jesus the Christ, to become the Messiah. He still had to work and earn it and dissolve his own fucking ego. He had to pass a million tests of initiation. He had to do the hard fucking work on himself to become what he became. Now imagine what it would take to become what he became. Guys, you're not sitting on a fucking mountain meditating, writing your fucking what you want to manifest on a vision board, and then, oh, so I'm a Messiah now. Get the fuck out of here. We got to grow up. Too much evil is on this planet right now for us to live in this severity of ignorance. We really need to grow up and get educated better with this stuff, okay? So, no, not anyone is going to become, not every person on the planet's like, I'm going to be a Messiah this time around. Oh, I'm going to be a shaman. I know a lot of people like to wear the masks of shaman. And, you went to a shaman and now you think you're one. or you took one class or something online and now it's like, oh, look, I took a class. I'm a shaman now. No, that's not what it takes to become what a shaman actually is. And it is something that you devote your life to. And guess what? Oh, but I'm devoted. Really? Have you given up every fucking thing else and sacrificed everything else? Because you're not a real motherfucking shaman if you haven't. And if you can't begin to comprehend what that means, again, this is not a judgment. It is a wake-up call. If you can't begin to comprehend what it actually means to become that, then you need to know you are still a beginner as a student. If you can't comprehend, that's not a slap in the face. It's just, hey, wake up. This is where you're actually at. Let's start and honor the place where you're actually at and realize how much more education you really need when it comes to this stuff. That's all. That is the way of truth. That is seeing with divine sight instead of your ignorance or your ego. Do you understand? Okay, so when you understand, or at least you're willing to realize that you can't begin to comprehend what it actually means to be a Messiah, to become that. So I'm going to go back to Jesus. He was taught by the best teachers that he had access to constantly, teacher after teacher, healer after healer. He wasn't born Jesus the Christ and just came out glowing white golden light. And then throughout his childhood, you know, he was just like Jesus the Christ. That doesn't fucking it. Guys, listen, please, for the love of him, for the love of Christ, please wake up for real. Okay. He had to become it. And that is not an easy path, which means you are paying your dues. You are in suffering. You are in pain. You are passing your test of initiation. It's like climbing Mount Everest naked with no tools, but doing it and then realizing Mount Everest was only just a little hill that you had to fucking climb over. The real mountains are over there and you got to go higher and it's harder, right? That's what it takes to become what it means to be a Messiah. You're not a fucking shaman or a Messiah because you have followers on social media and show up for festivals wearing linen and your beads around your fucking wrist. That doesn't make you that level of spiritual healer and or teacher, guys. You have to wake up and come out of the spiritual matrix that has grasped its hold on so many of you. It's time. Have you had enough? It's time to wake up for real and get out of the spiritual matrix, okay? Because we need you. This planet needs you to wake up for real and become way more elevated than you are. And part of that is receiving the education and understanding things on a deeper level, starting with the education of this stuff. So I'm going to get to how Jesus got paid. Trust me, I promise. And Buddha and all of them. All right. So when you're sacrificing, when you are devoting in a way that the average person can't understand the divine meaning of devotion. And no, just because you pray all day or you go sitting on a mountain for 30 years, I'm not talking about that type of devotion because that's not reality. You're not living your human life. You're actually bypassing it by sitting on a mountain and just meditating your life away. You're not actually experiencing the human existence. So no, that's not it either. Hi, wake up call. Wake up call. To do yoga for, 30 hours in a 24-hour day and to meditate in between. You're just fucking bypassing your human existence. Okay? Why don't you try to be that peaceful and that loving when you go to the DMV to renew your driver's license? Why don't you try to be loving and the way of compassion, the way of unconditional love enough to go see the movie Sound of Freedom and really watch what's happening in our world regarding the truth about sex trafficking? Become the way of truth, for Christ's sake. Become the way of harmlessness and gentleness. Oh, but I can't handle that. Oh, you're so weak you can't handle hearing about it? What about the children that men are fucking raping 10 to 15 times a day? 2-year-olds, 7-year-olds. Really? Oh, does that make you uncomfortable? How fucking pathetic are you? You can't talk about it, and yet that real thing is happening. You have to become so powerful that you can heal and teach and become what you need to become as a teacher, as a healer, when you are the archetypes that I'm talking about. True, powerful spiritual teachers, shamans, a messiah, for example. All right. It is not an easy thing to become, and it isn't a hard thing to become. It is a close to impossible thing that you have to become to achieve what your soul's gold print is, to become that in selfless service, in the way of selfless service for all of humanity. It is a very difficult and challenging path. It is an impossible path for most. And that's the fucking truth. So all this spiritual, I'm so special, anyone could be a messiah. No, you fucking can't. Not anyone can. You're not there yet. People are on different levels of development, you guys. Stop fucking being trapped in the spiritual brainwashing matrix that tells you every single one of you is a shaman. And no, you're not. It doesn't even make any sense. Who would be the emergency surgeon that we need in the ER when somebody's in a car wreck? We need that person just as much as we need the fucking shaman and the healer. Do you understand? Who would help teach you and be teachers to educate you enough to be able to go to college and get a degree if you need a degree for the career that you want to have? You guys, everybody's role here is different. Period, end. If you can't grasp that yet, you are not helping this fucking planet. I don't care how much goddamn linen you wear and how many crystals you fucking put up your ass. You're not actually helping anything. So you have to wake up. We need all different kinds of humans on this planet to play all different kinds of roles. That's why we're all here. If we didn't need that, then what it would mean is 10 people would be alive on the planet at any given time. We wouldn't need more than 10 of us to experience, we're all messiahs together. That's all we would need, 10 people to fucking achieve that shit. Okay, we have like 8 billion people on the fucking planet. Do you understand? We're all here to do different things. So get your head out of your spiritual asshole. Pull the crystals out of your assholes. And let's start waking up for real. Okay? And I'm smacking you in the face with this, because if you can't do that part, then you can't begin to honor the people who do play those roles on this planet. And fucking shame on you. So here's how Jesus got paid, because he was fucking honored. He was also hunted and murdered and tortured. But here's one way that he got paid. Different time. Remember, I said this already. I'm going to go back to this for a minute to refresh your memory. Different time in our financial system back then. Sometimes he actually did get paid with money. People would give money to the cause. Okay. He was a nomad. He traveled around to spread his teachings. Today, we have the internet for that. Right? We have social media for that. Okay. Donations. That's one way to pay. And guess what? He got paid money. People would donate for him to travel. Jesus healing and doing what he was here to do, when he would heal people, when he would teach. So it's not like you had an admissions fee. Different time back then. But what did they have? You see people who bring food and gifts and things that they put and place at the altar, right? Hello. That's a form of payment. Why do those traditions in some places, in some cultures, in some healers, why do they still exist today? It represents a form of payment. That's how they paid these people. When you are sacrificing your life for the sake of all others, and this is the real shaman, the real messiah, when you are sacrificing your human life is not the same that other people experience. It can't be to become what you are and then to offer the level of teachings and healings and things that you're here to offer. You can't live a quote unquote normal human life. And if you fucking misinterpret what I'm saying, then fucking leave and get out of here. Don't waste my time with your stupid fucking comments that some of you do. If you cannot comprehend what I'm saying, that's okay. I'm not judging you, but fucking come back in a year. Maybe you'll be more elevated and you can understand it. No, I'm not putting you down. Okay. This is a tough one for a lot of people to actually comprehend. Aren't you saying that they're special and superior then? No, I'm not. So again, if you can't comprehend the actual teaching, that's okay. It just means you're not ready for it yet. Come back in a year and listen to this one again in a year. Okay? They don't live the life that you live. They can't. If you just accept that for a moment and not go into your minds, well, tell me why, give me the, I don't have enough time for that in just this episode because there's a deeper point, more elevated point that I want you to get. That's why I'm leading up to that and walking you through it step by step. Because they can't live the life that the average person lives. They can't. Their makeup is very different. Energetically, they are a very different being. Because they have to be for you. They are sacrificing so much in order to offer you the teachings that benefit you, that elevate you, that guide you. Okay? To offer you the level of healing just with their words, that elevated level of spiritual education that is not this bullshit that is alive, mostly being offered today. To offer you that level, it isn't easy to get there. And it isn't easy to fucking maintain. All right? And by doing that, when you've become that, and then you are the way of selfless service. I mean, read the book, 20 Universal Ways of Oneness. Get it on Amazon if you want to know about the ways. The way of selfless service is one of the universal ways of oneness. It's number 12 out of 20. Okay? To become the enlightened definition of the way of selfless service, there is an incredible amount of sacrifice. And it doesn't mean you don't deserve to get paid, cared for, taken care of. So here's the real truth. You ready? Because this is the fun part. Here's how Jesus and shamans and the highest of the high got paid. Number one, they had devotees. They had disciples. The followers were so devoted to them. They were devoted. No, they were not devoted. Being inferior and thinking your teacher is superior to you is not the level, that's not divine devotion. Being a student to your spiritual teacher, being a disciple, for example, being a follower means it is a form of payment when you follow and listen with an open heart. This isn't blind faith. Blind faith is ignorance. It's stupidity. This is you are opening your heart to receive the teachings at the highest level that your consciousness can receive at this moment. That is a true divine follower, devotee, disciple. That your heart is fully open to receiving what is here for you. Because that teacher, that Messiah, that shaman is here in selfless service to you, for you. Everything they've had to go through, suffer through, all the tests of initiation, they have sacrificed, they have been through, they've passed, they've elevated, and they've elevated, and they've elevated, and they're hit and knocked down constantly, but they elevate and expand beyond that every damn time. No matter how painful, no matter how challenging, no matter how fucking impossible and dark it seems, they elevate and expand out of it every goddamn time. And you know why they're doing it? They don't fucking do it because it's fun, because it isn't. It sucks. It's awful. It is a fucking sacrifice. And yet they do it for you. You are why they are going through that. You are why they're doing it so that they can show up in the most elevated form possible that humans can exist, achieve, experience. And they are teaching you helping you, guiding you, healing you. They do it for you, and you don't think they deserve to get fucking paid for that? What does quote unquote paid mean? Back in the day, food was brought to them, clothes, supplies were given, they were paid for. Money was donated. So if they had to use money to go buy food, they would go into the marketplace and buy food because the money was given to them. Food was given to them. Blankets were given to them. People washed Jesus's feet before he laid down after, healing for free all day, after teaching what he was here to teach all day. They cleaned his body, they washed his feet, not because they were inferior to him, because it was a form of payment. Being cared for, being taken care of as a Messiah, as a shaman, is a form of payment. And back then, they didn't have houses with air conditioning and internet and phone. Today, the payment is money for the most part. Back then, there wasn't trade. It's not bartering, what we think is bartering today or trading today. No, that was payment. Shamans, Messiah, they need to eat. They need to drink. They were paid in those ways. That's how they were paid. They were paid by people volunteering and devoting their time to them. That's how they were paid. There's no such thing that Jesus wasn't fucking paid. Shamans were paid. They were just paid in the ways that were appropriate for that point in time. So I hope that your heart has awakened enough to allow the way of wisdom, the way of truth to come in more than it was a little while ago, and understand forms of payment are what have changed. Getting paid and deserving to be paid for what you offer in selfless service to others, what you sacrifice, you're sacrificing for them, and you are not meant to get a damn thing in return. What, you're going to starve to death and die? All these people today that are like, you're not a real healer if you heal and charge money. You're a fucking idiot. And you are a part of the evil who's trying to make sure that the elevated people can't make enough of a shift on this planet in order for all the evil people who control most of the money in the world can be brought down. And you think them being brought down is going to happen when your authentic, most powerful teachers and healers of this world are broke and in survival mode because you motherfuckers don't think they should get paid for what they're here to offer the planet? How dare you? Jesus was wealthy. Shamans were wealthy. They were wealthy because here comes the way of honoring. Here's one of the ways of oneness. People understood what their sacrifice was. People understood, and they were the way of honoring of them. They honored what they were here to teach and selflessly give. The level of loyalty, the way of loyalty, another of the universal ways of oneness. The way of loyalty that a shaman and a Messiah have is off the fucking charts. The average person is nowhere near capable of having that kind of loyalty. And it's not a put down. On your life journey of reincarnation, there are a lot of people who aren't fucking remotely close to being there yet. And it is no different than saying, well, they're only in 6th grade. They're not in college yet. They're not getting a doctorate yet. They're still only in 6th grade. That's never a put down. It is just understanding from a divine lens to see that they're in different grades And a sixth grader isn't capable of doing the coursework at a doctorate level. That's easy to understand that. So why do we have such a hard time understanding that spiritually? Like somehow it's fucking different than that on our spiritual journeys. Nobody's spiritual journey is inferior compared to another human. But there are not 8 billion people who are capable of becoming shamans or a messiah in this lifetime. It's fucking ridiculous. Nor would that ever be the case, because we don't need 8 billion shamans, just like we don't need 8 billion car mechanics. Just like we don't need 8 billion engineers. We need all different kinds of people in all different areas experiencing and offering all different services that they're here to offer and experience while they're here in human form. Do you understand? So get out of this like everyone's a shaman. No, you're fucking not. You just you aren't. It's just not even ignorance, it's stupidity. And it actually, I believe, has evolved into an insane amount of narcissism and arrogance that everybody thinks they're so fucking get out of here. Like, I'm not a neurosurgeon. And it would be really hard for me to become that. Like, that would be a hard thing. That wouldn't be easy for me to become if I wanted to study and go back to school and do that. I don't know if I could well, at this stage of the game, fuck that. I'm not studying that hard again in that sense. I completed all my coursework. I'm done. So no, at this stage of the game, I'd just fucking fail out of school. But it is ridiculous to think like, I'm that too. No, you're fucking not. Why don't you start to love yourselves for where you're at? Become the way of unconditional love and offer yourself love for where you are at on your journey, on your path right now. Because if you cannot even embrace where you're at in the way of truth, you're never going to get any farther and more elevated anyway. You'll pretend you are. You'll pretend you are. You'll put your fucking shit out in social media and you'll dress in the linens and use the crystal shit. And you'll be like, I am this. It doesn't mean you are just because you say you are. I say that to help elevate you. Never am I putting you down or criticizing you or judging you. This helps to elevate you. Why? Because we need to learn how to grow up enough and mature enough to function from the way of truth. That's number one, the way of responsibility. Okay. If you can't see that you're in sixth grade, you're never going to make it to a master's degree. So you finish your sixth grade work and you get to seventh grade. Even geniuses that like, they're so genius, they skip grades. Even if that's you, you're still moving through coursework. You don't go from second grade to a doctorate or to med school when you're, 3 years old. You can't achieve medical school when you're 3, even if you are like this insane genius. It's not possible. You still have to go through grades, even if you're soaring through every level, like at lightning pace. Do you understand that? You're still going through the levels. So just embrace where you're at. Honor, the way of honoring. Honor where you're at. Disciples and followers and devotees to the highest teachers that are out there, whether it's today or whether it was, over 2,000 years ago or whenever it was. Okay. Devotees, they gave their time, and that was a form of payment. They cleaned, they gathered, they gave offerings, they spread the word, they spread the teachings of that teacher. They brought other people in to listen and learn and expand with that teacher. They collected blankets and food and materials and supplies. They did work to earn food and materials and supplies, and then they donated that and gave that. So they were paying these teachers at all times. They were being cared for, taken care of, supported, the comforts of what they needed, all of their needs. They did not ever have to worry about surviving. And this is what I want to hit home. So listen to that again. They didn't have to worry about surviving because other people took care of that. Do you understand? so that they could focus on why they were really here and offer that to the world. So today, in today's world, because we're so fucked up, we expect those same types of healers and teachers that exist on this planet to have to worry about fucking surviving and earning money and paying their way. All the while, most of you fucking people that call yourselves so goddamn spiritual are at the same time making it so much harder for them to bring what they're here to bring to the world. You shouldn't be paid for healing. You shouldn't be paid for your teachings. You're fucking psychotic and you're part of the fucking problem. Actually, everything should be paid for them so that they could focus on what they need to focus on, elevating their energetic systems at all times, clearing out, maintaining, and then boom, another test of initiation, another test of initiation, another upgrade, another upgrade, another upgrade. It is fucking constant. You don't get a break from it, people. It is brutal. And you don't get to hang out with friends 4 days a week because this is fun. This is what balance is. Just hang out. There's no fucking such thing. You don't get to live life like other people do. Your abilities, your sensitivities are off the charts, and you are constantly being upgraded to grow more powerful and to be more elevated and to be more elevated and to be more elevated. And no, it is not the same thing as just elevating enough to simply be a channel, to be a messenger. That is a different job. That's a different role. I'm talking about the highest of the high of the teachers throughout history and that are alive today. Okay. The amount that it takes to achieve that and then to continue to elevate so that you have more to offer the world in selfless service and in the way of truth and in the way of compassion and in all the ways of oneness, your responsibility as that teacher. And there are still people out there that think and spread the fucking toxic poison that you shouldn't get paid, that you shouldn't be taken care of, that you should never, as that role, have to worry about survival because you're here to help teach everyone else. And yet it's hard enough when we have a world that's filled with so much goddamn evil and darkness. And then there are people that claim to be fucking awakening and spiritual saying you should do this shit for free. Oh, okay. So that shows a level of fucking ignorance and the grade of consciousness you're actually in. Because to work full time and to earn a living in order to survive and make enough to then become what you need to become, you obviously are only in preschool when it comes to your spiritual level of awareness. Because if you were higher than that, what you would be doing is everybody should support this person in whatever way that they can to make it easier to bring the teachings that they're here to bring for us, for our benefit. All of it is for your fucking benefit, and yet you're not for the benefit of that teacher? Shame on you. How dare you be that selfish and arrogant and narcissistic? Wow. We really need to wake up to this. Jesus was fucking wealthy. He wasn't greedy. There's the difference. Jesus was wealthy. He wasn't materialistic. There's a difference. He was a nomad. He had to have only a few things in order to travel the way that he traveled all over the place to spread his teachings. And yet he was wealthy. Just because he lived simply doesn't mean he was fucking broke. And in order to be, he renounced everything. False fucking teachings, misunderstandings of the time that was back then. He was a goddamn nomad. He traveled everywhere. It was a different time. You traveled on foot. You traveled on boats. You had to walk a lot in some sandals that I'm sure were not the most comfortable shoes to walk in for hundreds of miles. You had to set up camp everywhere you went, take it down. He was a nomad, for crying out loud. It doesn't mean he was poor. You had to carry your shit on your back in a sack, including the food. You couldn't take that much food. Food's heavy. Food weighs a lot. Do you understand? Are you putting this into perspective now? We have to put some accurate context into this stuff in order to grow up. Today's time's very different. You can jump on and do a Zoom and connect to anybody in the world for the most part. Being paid money, that is the value of being paid for what you do, for what you're here to offer. Why? Because that money pays and takes care of your survival needs. No spiritual teacher should have to think about survival. They've passed those tests of initiation. I'm not saying that because they're superior. If you still are interpreting it that way, just get the fuck out for a while and come back in a year. Jesus fucking Christ. It's not what it means. Raise your level of consciousness so you can hear what the teaching actually is. It means they work so hard for you. Other things should be taken care of for them. And today's world, that just means they make enough money. You're paying them in order for them to not think about their bills so that they can focus on what they're here to think about, which is you. Do you grasp that? They're here for you. And you selfishly don't think they should be cared for and taken care of in return. How dare you when they're taking care of you? You emotionally, spiritually, mentally, even physically. And you aren't there to then take care of them and support. This is what we need to wake up to. How fucking dare we do that to the people who are here to help us in the highest ways? How dare we be so toddler-esque and narcissistic that the center of the universe around me, you shouldn't be paid for this, me. Do you now see what you've been doing? Should be throwing money at these people. And I mean the real authentic ones, obviously. I really hope it clicked in this one. There is no fucking such thing that the greatest spiritual teachers on this planet today and throughout human history should not and did not get paid for what they're here to bring to the world. They just got paid in different ways compared to today. Our financial system was very different back then. Times were very different. They got paid, and they got paid handsomely. It was just done in an appropriate, contextual way. Think about context. When you're a nomad walking around all the time in your sandals, carrying your house and your food on your back and your clothes on your back, you're going to live a simple life. There's only so much you can carry. They didn't have homes and Zoom. They could jump on social media and use the internet. But that doesn't mean they weren't wealthy. And it doesn't mean that because of the times that they were in, that they weren't hungry sometimes. Yeah, you'd have to put up camp. You know how much work that is? And then to go find, and then go to the marketplace wherever you're at, and then go find food or offer services in order to get money, or trading in order to get the food, and all the different ways that they had to get food, or let everybody know you're there, offer the teachings. And then because you're teaching, people will then bring you supplies and food because, oh my God, I realize what you are, Messiah. Oh, I see what you are, and I see what you're gifting to me right now so selflessly. Please come to my house. We'll make you dinner tonight. You guys, they got paid. That's how they got paid. I feel like it's really clicked for a lot of you who maybe this didn't click before at this level. And that makes my heart sing with joy. And I mean that. I feel like it's clicked. So use discernment. Drop into your heart, grow your light, use discernment. Not everyone out there who's a fake, spiritual teacher deserves to get paid for the bullshit that they're spewing. Of course not. I am talking about the highest of the high. And when you receive those elevated teachings and you see the people, just understand, even if you don't understand the degree of sacrifice and what they have to do in order to offer that to you, just understand that that does exist. Even if you don't know what it means and you don't know how, and you can't fully understand it or get it, at least open your heart enough to just get the basic premise. They are sacrificing all the time, and they are doing that for you. They're not doing it to be special. They're not doing it to be known in the way that the ego needs to be known. They are literally doing it to enhance your life, to elevate you, to guide you back to your divinity. That is why they're doing it. And it's a lot of fucking work. It isn't easy. And that could be another 3 podcasts to really get you to understand and explain all the intricacies that go into becoming that and being that for other people. Anybody walking around like, oh, it's just easy. They're fucking fake. They are pseudo spiritualists. Be careful. And none of that comes from negativity, from victim consciousness. Don't misunderstand the teaching. A lot of what I shared today can be completely misconstrued. So drop into your hearts, alchemize whatever programs, whatever mental programs are coming up, and allow yourself to just become the way of connection, become the way of truth. Feel in your heart and your soul the truth all on your own. Don't just believe me. I don't want you to ever have blind faith. That's not empowering. But dissolve your shadow self. Get rid of your fucking programs that block you from being somebody who is here to offer in return something with grace, with gratitude for what that teacher is here to offer you. That is the way of honoring. And that way of honoring, in so many tangible examples, donations, gifting food, supplies, water, money, all of that was a reflection of payment because of the way of honoring. The way of honoring, in the way of honoring, is the way of gratitude. The way of humility is mostly where you'll find the gratitude. But in the way of humility and in the way of honoring, people paid those shamans. They paid the Messiah. Like, they were paid. They were handsomely paid. They were wealthy, those people. It just looks different than it looks today. You don't, like, it's misunderstood. Oh, I have to wear next to nothing and, hardly own anything, like Jesus. Are you a nomad? Do you walk the earth teaching what you're here to teach? Can you only carry it in a backpack and that's it? See how fucking ridiculous it all is? And I know that some of you are laughing at yourself because you bought into that religious bullshit brainwashing crap. And then you're like, oh, I'll give everything away to my religious institution. And if I'm broke, I'll be like Jesus. You've been manipulated hardcore. No. And it doesn't mean don't give and don't donate. But who are you donating to? The people that tell you Jesus renounced everything? No, he fucking didn't. He was a nomad. He can only carry so much on his fucking back. And he healed people all goddamn day. That's exhausting work, for Christ's sake. Like, his team of people, all of his disciples, all of his supporters, like, they put up his tent, they made his bed, and they didn't do it because he's a king and better than them, and he just doesn't need to do that. That's grunt work for the servants. No, because of how much he was giving and sacrificing all the fucking time, they took care of other things for him. They cared for him. They took care of him so he could take care of everyone else. Do you understand? That is oneness consciousness. How much are you taking care of the people that are guiding you and teaching you? Again, in today's world, that typically comes in the form of payment with money. I'm going to pay you to help guide me. I'm going to pay you for this. Why? Because that money buys you food and clothes and a house and a car to get around, transportation. That's why it's in a different form today. Not that money didn't exist back then. And yes, they got money too. But you understand at this point, by the end of this episode, what I'm actually talking about. Now, of the 20 universal ways of oneness, are you the way of honoring to the people that are here, that guide you, that teach you, that help you, that heal you? Are you the way of honoring? And you have to ask yourself in your heart if you really are. And if you're not, what programs are you running that's blocking you? Are you the way of selfless service? In return, the way of honoring is the 11th way of oneness. The way of selfless service is the 12th way of oneness. They're right next to each other. They go hand in hand. If you are the way of honoring of somebody, your way to be of selfless service is then, to bring them food and comfort and their supplies and donate your time, right? And today's time, it is mostly, because this is the system we've set up in the world, mostly it means give them money. So pay for their services, for example. Donate to their cause, for example. Spread the word. That's what all the liking and sharing. If you haven't done that, by the way, please like this episode and share it out. Make sure you subscribe. That's part of this in today's world. Do you understand? So if you can be of selfless service, let's say you can't afford a coaching program, but you'd love to have one. Look into the group coaching, by the way. It's a lot cheaper. If you're curious, go to mastersofselfuniversity.com to see your classes, digital courses, and all the things we have for you. All right. But if you're unable to participate in some of those things, can you share? Can you subscribe? Can you like? Can you tell other people? And you're not doing it because you're coerced, because you feel obligated, because it's expected. None of those are the ways of one of the universal ways of oneness. None of them. You're doing it because you realize there's value and you want to spread the word. And that is a part of the way of honoring of where you're receiving your teachings from. That is a part of the way of selfless service for you to give back to the people that you're learning from that are of high value to you, right? So think about it in today's world. Just because it looked differently thousands of years ago doesn't mean it looks different today, and yet it's still the same. The sad change is somewhere along the line, people got brainwashed and completely misunderstood what it looked like to pay and care for the people that were the highest teachers that existed, that in order for them to focus on what they're here to do for you, other people took over, spreading the word, caring for them, bringing them food, taking care of all of their basic needs. They were fucking paid, guys. They were paid. And as they should be, for God's sake, as they should be. And our world, our society, pays people millions upon millions of dollars to throw a fucking ball around. And then you think people doing the actual highest, most elevated level of work that exists in human form should do it for fucking free. And you tell me we don't live in the upside down world. Because someone can kick a ball, they should make millions of dollars. But someone that can guide you to heal all of your fucking suffering so you can become a sovereign being for real, completely free from the brainwashing and the matrix and the hate and the racism and the sexism and all the raping and all the sex trafficking. You can heal that by following a lot of work and becoming what these teachers are guiding you to become. But they should do it for fucking free. And someone who could kick a ball around for a living should get paid millions upon millions. Tell me we don't live in the upside down world. Wake the fuck up for real. We absolutely live in the upside down world. And you are holding the upside down world in place when you still pay for those other things out there, and then you don't pay for your teachers and your healers. They charge too much, but do they? You think an NFL player charges too much for his career? Really? Let's wake up for real. Let's wake up for real so we can start to swing the pendulum towards balance, healthy balance, where everybody gets to win, not just a select few on the planet. Let's wake up for real. Make sure you grab Mason's Way, the 20 Universal Ways of Oneness on Amazon if you haven't already. Go take that digital course, Introduction to the Universal Ways of Oneness. You can go to mastersofselfuniversity.com and you can dive into that course. You do need to read the book with the course. So grab that book first if you haven't already. And visit mastersofselfuniversity.com to see what live classes, group coaching that we offer, one-on-one coaching that we offer. And for some of you who come in very excited and you're not sure how you can afford, we do have coach financing and financing options. So get a free consultation and check those out. And if the one-on-one coaching is too pricey for you in your current situation, go to the group coaching. It's incredible and amazing. And some people heal a lot more in group coaching setting anyway, by the way. It's not like you don't get healed and you don't become extremely elevated in a group setting. In some cases, for some people, it's even more powerful that way. All right. So go check us out. Give us that like. Share this out, please. Make sure you subscribe. Thank you, as always, for listening. And if this was a challenging one for you and triggering, then I encourage you to come back and listen to this one again at a later time. Okay. Until the next episode, have a beautiful day, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now, everybody.